Despite calls by scientists and experts in mounting deaths due to COVID-19, the president has decided to declare victory and end efforts to contain the virus. Now, the president, during a recent press conference in Arizona, basically laid out the reasons and laid it out very plainly that Americans must die to reopen the economy.
Well, now it's time to open it up. And you know what? The people of our country are warriors, and I'm looking at it. I'm not saying anything is perfect. And yes, will some people be affected? Yes. Will some people be affected badly? Yes. But we have to get our country open, and we have to get it open soon.
Will some people be affected? Yes. Will some people be badly affected? Yes. The numbers of those affected, of course, will be stark. It's estimated that over 3,000 people a day will die by June 1st. That number, of course, would be doubled as states begin to open up. Nonetheless, the president is taking the actions to ensure that the numbers of the dead and infected will rise rapidly instead of decrease. In fact, Trump's coronavirus task force is beginning to wind down. This is according to Vice President Mike Pence. Operations, he say, are expected to conclude by June 1st. So it is the same date, of course, that we're expected to hit double the current death rate. Seems like they've already made their decision to allow the virus to run rampant across the country and ensure that as many people as possible become exposed and overwhelm our healthcare system. It's not unlike what Sweden had done at the beginning. To force herd immunity, the Swedish government decided to keep life as normal as possible. The result, of course, unsurprisingly, was a high death toll for a very small European nation. That plan, according to Swedish officials, was to allow healthy people to continue functioning in society while sheltering the old and sick and counting on citizens to socially distance themselves without any sort of rules or lockdowns. Now, they kept, of course, people in nursing homes, the elderly, safe by barring visitors. However, unfortunately, nearly half of all the deaths that happened in nursing homes. State epidemiologist Anders Tegnell had told The Daily Show with Trevor Noah that health officials thought it would be easier to keep the disease away from those people if they were sequestered in their homes. Well, that obviously failed, as Tegnell admitted that they didn't realize the true risk of the virus. He said, quote, "We never really calculated the high death toll initially. I must say the death toll really came as a surprise to us." Now, that appears to be the plan of the Trump administration, to release the lockdowns all over the country and count on citizens to, of course, just do the right thing. Personal responsibility, they say. You should know better. You should take it upon yourself to wear a mask. Maybe. You should take it upon yourself to socially distance when applicable. Except the country's leaders have not been leading on this issue. Earlier today, Donald Trump was doing a tour of a Honeywell factory where they were producing masks. Did the president wear a mask? No, he did not. Earlier still, you had Vice President Mike Pence doing a tour of the Mayo Clinic in which he also had not been wearing a mask. Now, that mask is not to protect Pence. The mask is not to protect Trump, but it is to protect others from contracting the virus from someone who may be an asymptomatic spreader. That is the reason why people are asked to wear masks. People are asked to wear masks in Michigan, where I'm located, although it is not a ticketable offense. A lot of the protesters that protest against Gretchen Whitmer's tyranny seem to have missed that point. Nonetheless, here we see the entire plan of Republicans is to let this thing play out and continue to get people back to work. In many states, we have seen, after they have released their lockdowns, an increase in confirmed coronavirus cases and an increase in deaths. Now, the president, business owners, and Republican politicians, media figures as well, seem to be okay with this mass death scenario. Many saying that, of course, the deaths are necessary to avoid an even worse economic disaster. Now, there's no doubt that people are suffering economically. Small business owners, with them, I understand their fears. I understand the fact that they are suffering. The latest coronavirus deal, they got the shorter end of the stick, as well as most American citizens, while corporations and the very wealthy ended up getting the lion's share of the coronavirus relief. Trillions upon trillions of dollars handed out to the banks and the biggest companies. Now, that said, it is the government's job to provide the people in need. And right now, there are a lot of people in need. However, according to conservative politicians, well, those people shouldn't count on the government to help them whatsoever because it's not the government's job. What's funny is that many of these conservative politicians who accepted the fact that we did give these unemployment benefits and a one-time $1,200 check to a select few million of Americans, well, they only accepted it because there was a large bailout for their donors. The other reason, of course, that they oppose this and that they're virulently opposed to giving any more sort of aid in a, for example, phase 4 stimulus that would help the states is the fact that they are afraid that a small taste of socialism might sour them in the poison Kool-Aid that they have been given for decades. Low wages, no benefits, busted unions. They approved the so-called CARES Act because their donors benefited, but when it comes to bailing out the people, well, this seems to be their response. Mitch McConnell had told reporters at a presser that they were in absolutely no hurry to pass a phase 4 stimulus bill as well, and they're, of course, unsure that there even will be one. There's, of course, some discussions in Congress whether or not to do this and what would be involved. However, one thing that they would want involved, if they're able to do this, or if they even want to, is a way to benefit, once again, corporations. In fact, one of the things that they said is that they wanted to make sure to protect, to give blanket immunity to any company whose employees fall sick to coronavirus, meaning that they do not have to protect their employees by practicing social distancing or ensuring that employees are able to practice social distancing, or the fact that they don't have to give any sort of PPE, masks, gloves, etc. That, of course, is another huge bailout. Going back to those who are looking to not do anything about this, you had economic advisor Larry Kudlow saying that we're in a pause period when it comes to any new plans to pass the stimulus. He told CNN's Jake Tapper that, quote, "We have put up $3 trillion of direct federal budget assistance in one way or another. The Federal Reserve has actually put in as much as $4 trillion to $6 trillion, so it's a huge, huge package. Let's see how it's doing as we gradually reopen the economy." Of course, that vast majority of money went to corporations and not people. And so it turns out the real plan is to sacrifice American citizens to the markets by depriving people of basic government aid. The type of aid that many countries are providing in the form of a temporary UBI, generous unemployment benefits, and rigorous social distancing requirements. Measures that in America are unthinkable to the ruling class. The very people most at risk not at risk are the ones telling you that you must take the most risk. The end of the coronavirus task force with the removal of the last vestige of government accountability of this virus. When a second wave inevitably hits, and it will hit, the country will again be blindsided, and with no protections in place, will be in an even more dire situation than any conservative pundit could ever imagine. We've not even hit peak, but now it seems rather assured that we as a country will soon hit bottom. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization, and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.